would I allocate thousands of dollars for a person that nobody will watch or very few people will watch as compared to somebody who at least 10,000 people will watch?
Only because of this, employee advocacy has become more important. They own the company. They are us.
User-generated content through your employees to understand what is working and what is not.
This is a right time for companies to make this shift from traditional paid influencer route to employees as influencers model.
Call this part 2 of the employee advocacy episode that we've done, really. And for a change, what we've done is that we have decided to actually call somebody who will be in a position to give us the lowdown. What does a CEO actually feel about his employees or people who work with him, his team, to actually look at employee advocacy from a very brutal business sort of lens and actually understand whether it's going to work or not. So this is the episode. This is the promise of the episode. And I'll let Janavi actually explain the context a little more and maybe introduce our guest to us.
So here are two striking numbers that should get every CEO's attention. Number one, 79% of companies with employee advocacy programs have already seen enhanced online visibility, with 65% noting improved brand recognition. And two, the content shared by employees receives 8 times more engagement than the content shared by brand channels. So while companies are pouring money into that $267 billion influencer marketing industry, they're sitting on an untapped gold mine right within their own offices. So today we have Shankar with us. He's the Chief Ideation Officer at I Strategic Business Advisors, combining a rare trifecta of being a chartered accountant, a certified management consultant, and holding a law degree. As an industry veteran who's been in the CEO chair for years, developing business architecture across IT, healthcare, finance, and media, Shankar is a go-to figure for helping companies develop winning strategies in dynamic markets. So, Shankar, first of all, welcome to our show at Fable Lab.
Thanks a lot for calling me.
And to start with, as a CEO yourself and someone who's worked with companies in diverse sectors and industries, what trends have you seen that would suggest that this is a right time for companies to make this shift from traditional paid influencer route to employees as influencers model?
Okay, I think very interesting question. And there is a very distinct change in the environment in the last 10, 15 years, right? From the advertising, marketing, distribution, the way it was carried out, changing completely because of social media and the trends that are happening because of the internet and connectivity. Each person has in his hands mobiles, laptops, wherever. And therefore, it is becoming very relevant for companies to look at employees as brand advocates much more than influencers. In fact, I would say that we must distinguish between influencer and an employee ambassador or an advocate, okay? Because influencers at the end of the day are chargeable commodities which need to be identified differently in terms of they are specifically for marketing, yeah. While employees are internal, completely internal, they own the company, they are us, they are with us, and therefore it is very critical to understand that their viewpoint is very critically taken by anybody who they talk to, relate to, whatever, okay. And therefore their advocacy is very, very important for the company to exploit and tap, not exploit but tap, okay. And if they can tap this resource which is lying hidden, not exploited completely by companies, it would make a tremendous difference to a company's marketing and advertising and actually relationship building. It's all about relationship today because Gen Z believes in relationship and connectivity with the company directly. Okay, yeah. And also one more thing is that typically I think today corporate world is not looking at a product or a service brand. They're looking at the corporate brand image itself being first a very vital element. Because of the finances, because of the IPOs, because of whatever that they wish to raise. Today, even a startup wants to raise money. So how do they raise money? I mean, it's very important that every employee communicates and gets that valuation for that company. And that can be done only through a brand image creation. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, am I answered your question? Sorry.
Yeah, I think so. No, in fact, your answer has raised many more questions in my head.
No, I would love that. Yeah.
So the first thing, like you mentioned, employee advocacy as different from influencers, and perhaps that might be a good way to look at it. I would agree with that sentiment because eventually you said something really strong. It's like they are us, which is such an interesting thing, right? Because I really liked what you said around that. Now I'm wondering whether this they are us actually becomes stronger at certain points of time in a company's life cycle. Like also I'm wondering whether it's B2B and B2C, is there a difference? I'm also wondering how powerful a CEO needs to be in order to galvanize the employees. I'm also, so there are so many thoughts that are going in my head, but let
Okay,
me
okay.
maybe start off with a single and simple one, which is, I'd love to know your take on where you see this employee advocacy working the most, and where do you see it maybe perhaps failing if not done well.
Right. So I'll tell you what, I think the best, actually, seriously speaking, employee advocacy will work and will always work with small, mid-sized, large companies, wherever
Mm.
it is, for which only one thing is that the ownership of the company lies with the employee, needs to be understood by the employee.
Mm.
Okay. Now, once that is understood, then everything will set in place, and for which it's very important that we have what we call as a training to employees, content creation for employees, and enabling the employee to understand the company better,
Mm.
right from the, I would say, right from the peon level to the big bosses level to even the CEO level. Company is not understood, and that is a critical factor for employee ambassador brand and whatever advocacy to get promoted. Therefore, employee training, visible is understanding what the company stands for, what is its vision, mission, what are its divisions, what are its plans, what is its future, how their finances managed, whatever is happening in the company. Okay, because at the end of the day, all the stakeholders need to be covered in this, and explanation of the various stakeholders needs to be understood by the employee, because he's talking to everybody, all the stakeholders. He's talking to a salesman, he's talking to probably a customer, he's talking to a shareholder, he's talking to whoever. Now, if that explanation is not done, he's going to fail, and
Mm.
then brand advocacy is bound to fail, because the
Yeah.
brand itself not understood by the employee is a killing factor.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So,
therefore, that is very important.
yeah.
Yeah,
Shankar,
sorry.
generally, yeah, whenever an employee enters a company, he's given an onboarding talk where he's
Yes,
explained all of this, right? The processes and the departments, etc.
yes, yes.
But what I've noticed, at least in the companies that I work with, it's generally a very, kowtowing sort of an image with HR created
Perfect.
image, right? That is like a corporate presentation. So in
Perfect.
that, a value imbibing sort of doesn't happen, where an employee is coming to a company perhaps for the monetary gains or for the brand name, at least for the 90% people out there, and the company is, it's basically a transactional sort of
Perfect.
atmosphere going on, right? So
Which should
like,
not happen.
yeah. So like, how does that translate into, or how does that take care of the question, the answer that you were giving right now on the entire know-how happening to write to the employees?
Yeah, and
Right.
let me just add a couple of
Yeah,
more
sure.
difficult things to the question. One is, if I look at the way in which so from transactional to actually understanding the values, right? So how can the shift be actually done? But I'm also wondering whether in the era of shortened employee spans, right?
Yeah.
Do employees look at it as also a transaction, or how do you break? So this is a change in behavior, isn't it, Shankar?
Appreciated, but I have a different take, okay?
Okay.
Which is very, very critical, that typically only because of this, employee advocacy has become more important,
Mm.
and for which training has become more important to understand that the employees understands your company well,
Mm.
has an affection and attachment to the company, okay? And therefore, that short span turns into a long span,
Yeah.
okay, for an employee, because he is now changing completely. His vision has changed for the company because he's understood the company. For
Mm.
example, if you ask a finance department today or an accountant in the company today, what his company doing, he may not know what the vision or the mission of that company is vis-a-vis the CEO and
Yeah.
vis-a-vis the management team. Okay, the vision could be substantial. Like, for example, there was a company called Vari Engineer, Vari, the PV cell company, yeah, yeah, energy company. And it was surprising that in the last 3 years, with a change in the attitude of the employer, which is the management, the vision changed completely. And today, suddenly it's changed. It came into an IPO level. It has raised substantial money and it's become a global company from nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a tremendous amount of mileage that the employee can gain if he imbibes that into himself, the
Mm-hmm.
company's vision, mission, the future vision for the company that the company has, and the employees benefit by way of ESOPs. They could benefit by way of perks. They could benefit by way of whatever is required by the employee's service. Then why should the employee leave? In fact, it would mean that more talent could come into the company.
Mm.
Yeah.
No,
Just to
it
add,
makes
yeah.
sense. Yeah, go on, Janvi. Yeah.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think in an employee advocacy program, an employee gets invested into the company. Now look at legacy
Precisely,
companies like Tata,
precisely.
right?
Absolutely.
A person in Tata has stayed in Tata for like 20 years. The perks have been good. It's not like they couldn't get better jobs. They could, anyone could have would have hired them getting the Tata brand, right? But there was that faith and trust in the company. And right now you're very right. Like this faith factor is missing. It has become so transactional between everybody that the employees come into a company with that mindset, I'm going to stay here for only 2 years. Now make that employee invest into the company, become a brand person or that image of the company. They'll automatically feel more connected to that company as their own
Perfect.
child,
Perfect.
right?
I can see that Janavi is already converted. I'm probably proving to be a tougher nut to crack over here. But what I'm trying to understand is like I said, see, you've been a CEO and you've talked to so many CEOs, right? So I'm just trying to understand if you had to actually deploy a program like that, and given the conditions that the way they are ceteris paribus, I do understand what you're saying. Like it's probably because nothing like this has happened that people are going the other way. I get that, but suppose you're in charge of you've got this wild idea, and what will make this succeed? How should the CEO approach something like this?
Yeah, yeah, perfect. I think, again, very interesting question. See, I tell you what, this is a function of the company as a whole, okay?
Mm.
So typically, I don't see it as a HR function, a marketing function, whatever, okay? It is a function of it's a holistic function of the company. So actually, everybody needs to contribute towards the information to be communicated to the employees in order that it gets communicated to the wider
Sure.
audience, which is his family, which is his networks, or online networks, whatever. Now, therefore, what we're talking about is right from HR, marketing, advertising, branding, positioning, your finance, your IT, very critical because you have to track those, whatever happening and whether the employee is really performing, whatever. So because performance also gets related to the services that he offers by way of
Sure.
whatever you call it, okay? And viral marketing, whatever he's doing, okay? Referral marketing, viral marketing, whatever. And for which he needs to be very clear. So these are holistic. The department, IT department, manufacturing department, the customer relationship department, the PR department, all need to get involved in creating content which is suitable for promotion by the employees to the various segments of their company. Therefore, this is very critical.
Hmm. Okay,
Yeah.
so let me just ask you a little more. Sorry, Janavi, I know you're also bursting to ask questions, but I just wanted to know. So, like for example, there are many ways in which we can use this. Like, so as a CEO, you have choices. You have choices for the employees to actually build the brand or the corporate image, right? And therefore talk about values. The second can be around selling something, which is like
Yeah.
yeah.
Product. Yeah. Product or service. Yeah.
And the third could be to attract talent to
Sure.
come in.
Sure.
How do you approach? What do you think this can be used best for? Because one of them will be more transactional, one of them is internal, one of them is external. How would a CEO like you think about something like this?
Again, a little different approach. Okay.
Yeah,
Because all three things are differently correlated to the company. Okay.
yeah,
Vis-a-vis, for example, recruitment or HR. Now, if the company employees are satisfied, they through their networks will be spreading news of the company, and therefore a lot of more employees could generate
yeah.
out of the talent force. Okay. Similarly, for branding and product marketing. Now, for
Hmm.
example, if I give them some incentives towards coupons and circulate whatever, some benefits to the employees by which they can circulate coupons to their to their networks, to their families, to whatever, and if the sales get generated out of that, or you get more hits, more clicks on the website, clicks on whatever, and therefore there's a revenue model for that also. So these are independent factors. I don't think they can be comparable. So you may not be able to compare them in that terms, which is more important or less important. For HR, this is the most important. For the finance, it could be the most relevant, could be the actual revenue generation out of this whole marketing exercise. Because at the end of the day, what we are doing is we are not pulling, but I'm saying is we are allocating a certain amount of budget to this exercise, which is much more valuable for the company than any advertising or your influencer marketing can
Hmm.
provide. Okay, that's
Okay.
the way we want to take it forward.
Yeah.
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 And that's why the employees of brand ambassadors become it's an internal resource, and why not tap it?
Yeah. No, I
Cost
get.
wise also, I mean, time wise, they
I
could
was just
spend some
wondering
time.
where it would work more, where it would work less, and if you had 10 rupees to spend for these three objectives, like
No,
for example.
all the 10 rupees are being spent on the employee.
Okay.
So to the extent they can spend it, HR it's a corollary. It comes automatically. The whole
Yeah.
binding comes automatically. It's a basket
Yeah.
which the employer is offering. So you're spending on the employee.
Hmm. Hmm. I
He
see.
may spend, so it comes automatically. Like social, I mean, social media today is, you know how it is. It's viral,
Yeah.
so it's everything is allowed. You know, you can get all the three segments. The employee covers one, employee can cover all three,
Yeah.
and it
Mm.
gets automatically covered. It's intangible. It's not
Yeah.
tangible.
No.
There's a lot of intangibility in this.
How,
Yeah.
okay, Janvi, any questions from your
Yeah,
side?
yeah, yeah. So I wanted to ask you a question. Look, if we look at the consumer side, the people who will be watching those campaigns, for example, now the employee advocacy has been proven till now for the HR activities, for the recruitment activities, and all of that. So that's how we fairly know it. But when we come to functions like marketing and everything, right? The consumers or the external people, the investors or whoever is watching the campaign, will have some hesitation in their mind that a person talking about their company is talking about the company's line. It's happening because those employees have been incentivized. So here comes a disparity where the company is trying to preserve their brand image as somebody who is, has some values or has some culture, and here is the employee who's propagating that same culture while also telling that this thought is coming from my own head, while there is a campaign running in the background that is making those employees maybe not script that out, but generate that kind of content on social media, be it for your sales teams or for your marketing fit. So how
Because
do
I
you
think
see
what Jano is probably
implementation
asking, I think
happens?
just to add to what Jano is, how do we avoid it from becoming a multi-level marketing
I
scheme?
understood. I
Yeah,
understood. I understood. Very critical. Very critical.
Yeah.
Very important. See, I tell you what. Even any brand creation, brand strategy, anything will automatically spell out. Okay, you communicate once. The second time, the customer is not going to come back to you unless
Yeah.
it's really genuine. So the
mm,
genuineness has to come from internal resources, and the company is not going to give the right delivery. It's not going to happen anyway. Be
Yeah.
it advertising, be it in influencer marketing, wherever, all these problems are going to happen in every segment. Okay, whether it's over the line, under, below the line, or whatever, right? And therefore, it's critical that that no 1 minute, 1 minute, Janvi.
yeah, yeah,
What I'm
sure,
saying
please.
is, it's very critical that that there has to be genuineness of the company, okay, and trust factor on in the company vis-a-vis the employee, so that he gets trusted automatically. Yeah,
Right,
and
right.
that can come through content, that can come through original content, that can come also through his own content, but in a certain legal fashion. Okay, that means he doesn't go out of border in content creation. Okay, and
Mm,
that is completely parameterized, and it's actually given to the employees every week, every 15 days, whatever, so that he communicates the right segment. And it's a corporate brand. It's not a product or service right now. Okay, once it comes to product and service, there are coupons, there are whatever, and they can then sell once, and the customer may come back, may not come back. Okay,
Yeah.
that depends on whatever happens. Yeah, sorry.
yeah.
Sorry, Janavi, you first. I've
No,
got
go
an idea which has struck me because of what Shankar has said, but you first. Yeah.
okay. So now I'm asking this question: what a board member or somebody who's giving the budget, allowing the budget for
Sure,
this kind of
sure,
campaign would ask, right? So
sure.
now here, once you have an influencer who at least who could be a scroll stopper. Influencer marketing campaigns work because the faces are scroll stoppers. Be it mega influencers who millions of people know, or nano influencers that at least their niche knows, right? Now here comes a person that nobody knows in this world, an employer who's an average Joe working in an average company. Why
Perfect.
would, in this noise of social media, would I allocate thousands of dollars for a person that nobody will watch or very few people will watch, as compared to somebody who at least 10,000 people will watch?
Uh,
Okay, great. I think wonderful question. A very interesting concept or an idea. Okay, is that he is what I would say, if I were to say that if there are 1,000 employees, okay, influencer is a guy who's got say 1 million followers, okay, and he is therefore promoting a product or a service or a company brand to those 1 million customer, the work consumer of his followers, okay. Now instead of that, if I give 1,000 employees or 10,000 employees in my company, okay, who has a family of four, who has a family which will percolate into his networks, their networks, whatever, okay. Now he is, in short, becoming an advocate for the brand for that 1,000 people, okay, of his particular family, his friends, his relatives, his social networks, whatever, whatever. Now if
Yeah.
the 1,000 into 1,000 happen, it becomes much more than 1 million,
mhm.
Mm,
okay, and therefore you're reaching a lot of audience for the same product. So
right.
instead of having one influencer talking to 1 million, I can have 1,000 employees talking of the same thing to 1 million people or much more than 1 million people. Yeah, the reach was not reached till today, and therefore that's not analyzed.
Yeah,
Mm,
and
That's the
also
only thing.
I don't think Shankar is saying that don't use influencer marketing. You can use
No, I'm not
influencer
saying.
marketing.
I'm only saying separate
Uh,
that budget. A small budget
yeah,
can be allocated to
Yeah.
this,
yeah,
and if it is well tracked and if it's defined, I think it will keep on enhancing. And the
Right.
you
budget
know,
need not enhance. The budget need not enhance. In
So,
fact, the company, as you asked me about the viability and the profitability for the company, actually the very less budget compared to advertising influencer marketing, this could be achieved in a much better sense.
true. So the where we go with the UGC kind of campaigns now. First of all, we hire external people on a certain budget, and then we run performance ads, allocating more budget. Here you have the resource within your house,
Within
and all you
absolutely.
have to allocate budget is for the performance campaigns and not for
Perfect.
that content.
yeah,
Perfect.
beautiful. Well said.
No budget for the training of the employees,
Yeah.
which is critical. Yeah,
Hmm.
budget for the legalities and the content
Yeah,
technology that may be required behind it. The
yeah,
budget for the HR department to have something to do with it, and the other department, advertising, marketing, to create the content. So
Yeah,
these are three or
and
four budgets
perhaps
that are required. Yeah,
incentives for the
yeah,
employees.
incentives for them, of course. But that is directly related to the targets. So
Hmm.
that's I mean,
I've been dying to say this idea, right? So like, here's the idea. So, you know what made Patagonia work, right? Patagonia was connected to a movement, save the environment. What made Ben and Jerry's work was again connected to a environment-driven movement. It might be an idea for a company's existing CSR activity or an existing movement that can actually be spread by employees, because that is one of the quickest ways in which you can
beautiful,
actually communicate value,
beautiful, beautiful,
and
beautiful.
yeah, that can be marketing, that can be brand, that can be culture,
Absolutely.
everything.
No, now what you're doing is you're creating a chain, a viral
Exactly.
chain, okay?
Yeah,
Referral chain. Now that chain
exactly.
can be exploited for anything. Data can be pushed in anyway. It's a
Yeah,
CSR activity, it could be a promotion, it could be IPO, it could be anything.
yeah,
IPO is coming. Subscribe.
yeah.
This company is going to do this tomorrow. Subscribe.
Would
We
you
are doing
would you select all employees to do it, or would you do how would you
no,
look at it?
yeah. For this, I think best is to actually have identified employees initially,
Yeah,
but train
correct.
everybody.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Train everybody, because at the
Okay.
end of the day, every employee, when he goes out of the office, actually, I mean, in the software companies say, once the brain goes out, there's nothing left in the company.
Yeah.
In every, I mean, and
Yeah,
in every company for that matter, even the
yeah,
smallest laborer, if he goes out, the machine doesn't work. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
So for that reason, it is very critical that all employees, right from peon to the bosses, know what the company does, what is their vision, how they are functioning. For example, a Godrej. Godrej has got reality, Godrej has got consumer, Godrej has got source, Godrej has got blah, 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 blah. Does any company employee in the factory, in a soap factory, know that the company is also doing real estate? They don't.
yeah, yeah,
Now,
yeah,
can that awareness be created?
yeah,
Very
yeah,
critical that everybody knows about it. Then, of course, select brands for a particular purpose. For
yeah,
example, if it's a product sale, you could have only the salesman or whatever, the sales team or whatever, to do
yeah.
whatever is required to be done. But otherwise, as a brand, every employee needs to know what the brand stands for.
No, brilliant. I like it. And now here's another, maybe my final tough question is, okay, you are talking of a lot of intangible things, right? How do I make it tangible for maybe my board? Or how do I make it, like, how do I do that?
Now, see, I tell you what, today, tangibility is already defined because of influencer marketing, which
Mm,
is your clicks, your reach, your whatever, okay?
yeah,
The ROIs, the customer acquisition cost,
yeah,
all that is already involved, right?
yeah.
The same applies here at a fraction of the cost, okay?
Understood.
Similarly, for recruitment, you have already identified people who want to join the company. You are not going to promote it. So there's no HR cost in terms of hiring 1 month salary being paid to an agent, because there are already employees wanting to join you, okay?
Yeah,
Because of this relationship that now exists. So there are a lot of things. I mean, increased profitability, reduction in HR cost. All this goes into tangible results.
yeah. Shankar, you said something about relationship building and trust building. Do you see this working more for B2B, or you think B2B, B2C, it really doesn't matter?
Seriously, doesn't matter. For
Hmm.
B2B, I have a different take actually. Okay, nothing to do with HR and brand ambassador, but I think
Okay.
for B2B today, even today for that matter, B2B was taken for granted that it doesn't require marketing, advertising,
Yeah,
branding.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, typically I'm supplying to Kirloskar for lifetime. I'm going to
yeah,
supply that component to a Kirloskar or whatever. I mean, it's
yeah,
B2B, okay? And
Yeah.
therefore, why should I? But today, people have understood that even B2B requires this branding marketing, because companies
yeah,
are closing down. For
yeah.
example, GM and Ford closed down. Today, I had a Canadian company walking into saying that we don't have business.
Hmm.
Where do I go? Now I have to go international. How do I market? People don't know me. I've never created a brand because I thought GM and Ford will last me a lifetime. Today, they didn't last me.
Ah, okay.
You saw that, right? I mean, you saw
Yeah.
that GM Ford
Yeah.
was dead once upon a
Yeah.
time, right? Boss, yeah, Detroit was dead. These
Yeah.
cities were dead. Now, this came out, then people started understanding, boss, nahi chalne wala hai. We want a brand. We want a brand even for B2B.
Hmm.
And once the brand comes in, the whole thing, employees, brand, blah, 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 all that, influencer marketing or advertising, all that happens for the B2B segment. B2C
Lovely.
is, of course, I understood thing that things will
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll just add this one campaign that I think Udaan or some B2B e-commerce company did, where they had all their distributors and the people in their retail shops. They were making content about their own, franchises and products and putting it on the company's
Social media.
social platform and they got a very good acquisition, a very good uptick in the initial years. I think it was a challenger brand to Udaan, and in the first few months they came very close to Udaan's levels of acquisition despite having much less level of investments coming into them. So you're absolutely right. Like B2B is slowly realizing that they first need to do the branding, advertising side of things, and now they have a very big network of employees with them, of
Yeah.
dealers with them, dealers and vendors with them, right? So it is time that rather than going that B2B, B2C kind of a playbook where you get that influencer celebrity on board, you tap into your own golden network inside.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
I'm wondering, Janavi, have you asked Shankar all the tough questions?
Yeah, I'd like to ask one question, which is on the operationalization side of things, right? Now, a model like this is kind of easy when it's a startup, right? Because the number of employees are less. The value system is more intact still. But when it comes to the bigger companies, say with 10,000 employees, 4 lakh employees, etc., then how do you scale up this kind of an initiative so that everybody is in the loop?
Very interesting. But because of technology today, okay, you can actually reach your 4 lakh employees in a second through content creation, through whatever, and enable them to at least understand the brand.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So training, independent training, whatever is required can be done online to all these people. And as we said, this is like a ongoing activity. It has to be an ongoing activity for a year or two. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like every week, every quarter, every 15 days, every month, every quarter, news gets spread of the new kind of developments in the company, the new initiatives. So as you rightly said, at the initial stage, while HR hiring, you're doing that initial blah 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 for the company. Okay. But that's only a blah blah blah. Actual promotion comes in when he actually joins the company, right?
Yeah.
And when he comes to know internally and he imbibes that culture into him,
Yeah.
Hmm.
the mission and vision actually come to him only once he gets involved with the company, with the product, with the services, with the teams, with whatever internal. Yeah. And therefore, people trust him more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
And then
Shankar, this is
you can
brilliant.
reach 4 lakhs, 4 lakhs or 40 lakhs. It's not relevant because it's like, I mean, you communicate through internet and it just wildly spreads. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's not only internal, but it's also external.
Yeah.
Lovely. Yeah. Okay, so here we go. Shankar, what we normally do is because of a conversation like this, right? Maybe we tend to, at least I tend to learn something from the conversation as it happens. Some insight, some spark, something happens. I learned something really interesting from Janavi actually because she has cracked it. She said UGC, which is user generated content, and she has placed it in the whole marketing cycle, which means that you are creating UGC through your employees, user generated content through your employees to understand what is working and what is not. Okay,
Super. Yeah.
and then scale it up through normal advertising. So then it automatically fits into a lot of the budgeting stream, and all those questions can go haywire. So that's one thing I learned. And the second
No,
thing
one
is,
thing, one thing, one thing, one thing, one thing. Sorry,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
going
yeah.
to interrupt
Go
you
on, go on.
because UGC in a brand advocacy campaign, okay, needs to be monitored, needs to be thoroughly
Yes,
evaluated and legally implied, okay, because it could otherwise turn against the company. Therefore,
yeah,
you 90% of it would not be user generated content, but it would be user generated content based on the content given by the company.
sure.
So
I
they
understand.
modify
There
it
has
to
to
a
be some
certain
guideline.
extent.
There has to be
Yeah,
some
but the
guideline.
content actually comes from the company. Yeah, which is then given to the employees.
So
And then they go ahead and generate their own language, their own words, whatever they want, but they cannot go outside. Otherwise, I'm going out of my legal boundaries. Yeah,
no, no, I get it. I
yeah.
don't
So
think
that's
that
very
we are
critical. Yeah,
yeah, no, no, I understand. See, there's a fine balance there.
yeah, sure.
The fine balance is that if it appears scripted, then you're going to
No,
lose.
no. It has to
So
be it has to be tuned to that level. But
yeah,
message has to be clear. The
yeah,
message has
Yeah.
to be
absolutely,
what the message has
absolutely.
to be. Yeah.
But that is my big learning from the UGC perspective because then it can scale up. Now over to January. What does she
Yeah.
do?
so what I learned from Shankar was, it's not, we have been thinking, you and I, we have been thinking about the the employees and influencer campaign as more of a, the external point of view,
Yeah.
like what goes out. But what I learned today was what has to come in to the employee first, what the company has to, communicate to the employee. That is the step zero, in fact, I would
Absolutely.
say.
Yeah.
If the employee doesn't understand what the company is all about, if the corporate onboarding, corporate presentation was the only reference that the employee has about what the company values and cultures are, then whatever, how many dollars you might spend on this kind of a
Not work.
program will not matter. It'll just
Yeah.
be another counterweight.
Absolutely.
Lovely. Any final words, Shankar, from your side? Any final thoughts? Any
No,
new fresh?
I think today, I would say today and now on, uh, advertising, branding, positioning, and your influencer marketing will change or will have to change to a certain extent to include brand
Okay.
advocacy. Okay,
Mm.
as a concept, as an agency, and these agencies are bound to split up now as separate products for companies. Okay, and that can come through people like us who actually, as CEOs, have implemented this in certain companies
Yeah.
or whatever, or trying to convey that to companies. Yeah, and that has to happen because this resource is still untapped. That's a noted fact.
Yeah.
At least in
Yeah.
Indian companies, today. Then it can spread
Brilliant.
globally. Yeah.
Brilliant.
And for which you
Fantastic.
need to create the training sessions, you require to create whatever. So it's a highly technology oriented technology. So it's going to be a tech driven advertising or marketing through brand advocacy. But it's not going to be influencer marketing. That's what my take would be. Okay. Because that's an
All right.
outside field. That's an outside field. That's a typical transactional model which should not happen.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Thank you. Wonderful. That's a wrap.